The brilliant Canadian Gilles Villeneuve then got his Ferrari to go very quickly indeed and notched up victories in the South African and the US Grand Prix West, the road race that was particularly suited to Villeneuve's talents. The Ligier then came back into the last Grand Prix with France's Patrick Depailler at the wheel. It was victorious at Jarama in the Spanish race. And so with those victories and the other placings, Gilles Villeneuve and Patrick Depailler share the leadership of the 1979 World Drivers' Championship. Lafitte and Lotus's Carlos are 2 points back in joint third place. Jody Scheckter with 2 second places in his Ferrari is fifth, and the reigning world champion Mario Andretti sixth. So the Belgian race poses some very interesting possibilities. Will Lafitte or Villeneuve claim their third win? Could the fast improved Lotus bring Mario Andretti his first victory of the season in a race he won last year? 70 laps of the Zolder circuit means a 185-mile race and a lap record of 114.885 miles an hour, very vulnerable indeed. In Belgium, our commentator Andrew Merritt, and before we join them on the warm-up lap, he takes us through the grid leaders.
And they're in pole position for the Belgian Grand Prix. Jacques Lafitte in the all-French Ligier. Jacques Lafitte, winner in Argentina, winner in Brazil. Jacques Lafitte returning to pole position, and it's an all-French front row of the grid for this 6th round of the 1979 World Championship, because alongside Jacques Lafitte in car number 26 is his teammate Patrick Depailler of France. Patrick, who won 2 weeks ago in Spain. Hello. So a jubilant practice session for the two Ligier drivers, although there that man Patrick Depailler did have an accident in the closing stages of yesterday's practice. He hit his car badly and he's now sitting in the spare Ligier JS11, Ford Cosworth powered, remember. That team used Matra V12 French engines until the start of this season, and the switch to a new car, the wing car concept, and the Cosworth V8 engine made all the difference. A team that had never really been a regular winner suddenly put themselves into pole position in Argentina at the start of this season. Managed to score a victory for Jacques Lafitte. In the second race, it was a 1-2 for Lafitte and Depailler, and then in Spain 2 weeks ago, after a couple of dull races, they were back in their winning ways, with Patrick Depailler winning. But there's a big surprise in third position, third fastest in practice, Nelson Piquet, the Brazilian, first full year of Formula One in car number 6, Brabham with a V12 Alfa Romeo engine. Nelson Piquet, a big surprise, is faster than his teammate, Niki Lauda. Nelson Piquet of Brazil yet to score a single World Championship point, but he looks as if he might do so today. Seems cool, calm and collected. Son of a Brazilian diplomat. His father wanted him to be a tennis star. In fact, he went to university in America and on a tennis scholarship, but now motor racing is his game. Alongside him, car number 27, Saudi Williams, Alan Jones of Australia, lives in London, near London Heathrow Airport. Alan Jones, reigning Can-Am champion, never been so far up the grid as today, and reckoned he could have made pole position, but he had to spin to avoid Depailler's accident. That damaged the skirts of his car, and when I say skirts, some of you who are technically minded will understand those are the bits that keep all the air under the car. So he couldn't go for pole position, but very happy with third. And there behind him, Mario Andretti, the reigning world champion. Mario Andretti, 5th fastest in his Lotus 79. Yes, he is driving a Lotus 79. The Lotus 80 was crashed yesterday in practice, was repaired overnight, and then in the morning warm-up session it had an engine problem with the distributor. It is apparently a 5 to 6 hour job, the mechanics tell me, to change the engine. So Mario Andretti in the Lotus 79, which is hardly practiced. There, the eyes of the world champion at 39 years old, the second oldest man in this race. A great all-rounder, Mario Andretti. He has won at oval racing in America. He's won Indianapolis, 3 times American champion. And Mario Andretti won last year. And there, another man who's been setting the pace this year, Gilles Villeneuve of Canada, a little French-Canadian, driving the Ferrari T4. He gave that car its debut in South Africa and won with it. He went to Long Beach and won with it again. Gilles Villeneuve had a little problem in Spain 2 weeks ago, and there you see a close-up of the slick tyres, and those little indentations you see are just so the technicians can work out the tread wear. They don't contribute to the pattern at all. And there you see the rear tyre and the exhaust pipes of that flat 12 Boxer Ferrari engine. You see the name Gilles scrawled on the side of the tyre. Gilles Villeneuve, French-Canadian, 27 years old, comes from Quebec. So the warming up lap for the Belgian Grand Prix, and there you see the lap record currently held by the late Ronnie Peterson, 1 minute 23.13 seconds. And you see the cars now streaming round on this warm-up lap. They'll be weaving about to get their tyres nice and warm, and then just a few seconds, a few slight pause on the grid before the flag drops, and they'll be off for this, the 6th round of the 1979 World Championship. In pole position, remember, Jacques Lafitte, winner in South America. Jacques Lafitte, the Frenchman who says he sometimes prefers fishing to Grand Prix racing. Casual young man. Comes from central France. Jacques, in fact, the son of a prominent Paris lawyer who doesn't even drive a car. And now coming up to one of the tight hairpin bends. This is older track, very, very hard on brakes. Certainly the hardest track on brakes in Europe. Perhaps the Montreal circuit may be harder, very hard on brakes, this track, mainly because at about 3 places round this circuit, and there you see one of the long straights, the cars roar up to 180 miles an hour and then have to cram on the brakes, come down the gearbox and bring the speed right down to somewhere in the region of 80, 75 miles an hour. They have to do that 3, maybe even 4 times during a lap. And that is what really tests the brakes of these cars. It also tests the transmissions. We may see a lot of retirements today in this Belgian Grand Prix. Cars now coming up towards the grid. You see the paddock area, this narrow paddock area between the home and return straight. Cars now rolling up into positions, and all French front row of the grid, remember. Jacques Lafitte and Patrick Depailler. See the 2 cars there, and behind them, that's the Prix 2nd row of the grid. Nelson Piquet in the Brabham Alpha, and Alan Jones, the Australian. Very, very popular man, very down to earth. Alan Jones lives in London. And engines now revving. Just seconds to go before the off. Whistles blowing out there, hearts no doubt pounding. Who will win this Belgian Grand Prix? Will the Ligers walk away? Engines, the red light's on. A little bit of creeping and they're off. Speed start. All jostling for the position. Alan Jones definitely in 2nd place. It looks as if Patrick Depailler made a slightly slower start than Jacques Lafitte. Jacques Lafitte in the lead. Alan Jones is 2nd. Alan Jones trying to go around the outside there, down at the canal turn. No way he can do that. So in the lead, Jacques Lafitte. 2nd, Alan Jones. 3rd, definitely Nelson Piquet. You just saw a smash of the canal there. 4th, Patrick Depailler. To 5th place, that looks like Mario Andretti, followed by Clay Regazzoni, then Gilles Villeneuve. Long stream of cars as they go towards the chicane. Here they'll have to knock their speed right down to about 75 miles an hour. Right, left, through the chicane. All the cars seem to be through there. And indeed it's not Jacques Lafitte who is leading, it's Patrick Depailler. Jacques Lafitte is down in 4th place. 2 Ligers, both well up. Alan Jones trying for the inside again, he doesn't make it. There is Mario Andretti. Through your picture this first lap, but Patrick Depailler in the lead. There you see from the helicopter, just the cars lengthened it, and Alan Jones seems to be faster on the straight. Alan Jones going to the outside into that left-hander, he drops back. Nelson Piquet right with them. Patrick Depailler, winner 2 weeks ago, doesn't seem to have suffered any effects from that practice accident in the spare car. He only drove this morning. Alan Jones seems to be faster on the straight, certainly. There you see the canal turn. Jacques Lafitte still 4th. Now towards the chicane again. Really testing on brakes. See that squiggle put in to slow the car down. Still Nelson Piquet 3rd. And somebody's over the curb there. Looks like Regazzoni and Villeneuve had a tangle. There you see the Alpha going through the picture. Claire Regazzoni seems it. Now we see it in slow motion. You see the wing of Villeneuve's car got knocked, so he'll have a pit stop. And Claire Regazzoni seems to have abandoned his car. So we've seen some dust-ups in that chicane before now. Back of that group car, number 15, that's Jean-Pierre Jabouille, but completion of the second lap. Dupai leads. Second, Alan Jones. Alan Jones pressing hard. Third, Nelson Piquet. Fourth, Lafitte. Fifth, Mario Andretti. And sixth is Jody Scheckter. Seventh place is Carlos Reutemann. And the Ferrari in the pits. Gilles Villeneuve sitting in the pits. Villeneuve, joint leader of the World Championship before this race with 20 points, but losing quite a lot of time in the pits while they adjust his front wing. There, a new front wing goes on. Gilles Villeneuve losing a lot of time. A lap here, remember, takes about 1 minute 23 seconds. It looks as if Villeneuve could lose a complete lap. Meanwhile, Patrick Dupai is still in the tenuous lead from Alan Jones and the Williams. Meanwhile, Villeneuve rejoins the race, lost perhaps 3/4 of the lap. There you see Villeneuve out of the pit road. Gilles Villeneuve in last place, but I don't expect he'll stay there for very long. Nelson Piquet still third. Remarkable performance by this young man, but now being pushed by Jacques Lafitte. But Patrick Dupai is setting the pace. Patrick Dupai, 34 years old, from Clermont-Ferrand in France. Been racing now for almost 15 years. Patrick Dupai, who was for many years considered the eternal number 2, could never quite win a Grand Prix. He had the big breakthrough when he was driving for Cantero last year at Monaco in front of a delirious French crowd, and he won again. Only his second Grand Prix win was just 2 weeks ago in Spain. Alan Jones has only won one Grand Prix. That was in Austria a couple of years ago when he drove for Shadow. Alan Jones would desperately want to win this race. Very, very happy when I spoke to him before the start. And a long train of cars there. It looked to me very much as if Jacques Lafitte had got through to third place in front of Nelson Piquet. Little swerving about. See the similarities of these cars, both wing cars. They duct the air under the chassis, and that produces a slightly sucking effect which holds the cars down to the ground, and they pull something in the region of 2G sideways force. There is Gilles Villeneuve rejoin the race. This is lap 4. Just completing lap 4. Patrick Dupai still in the lead. Second, sliding a tail out, Alan Jones. Third place, Jacques Lafitte. And he'll soon start a charge, see if he can go for the lead. Fourth, Nelson Piquet.
So the Belgian Grand Prix well and truly underway, and already plenty of incident, but I can tell you that opening sequence was recorded.
Dupai in turn being pressed hard by Alan Jones, who had tried for the lead and then got very wide on the corner. This is lap 21, and here is the standing after 20 laps. So you see, first Lafitte, second Dupai, third is Alan Jones, fourth and pushing hard in the Ferrari, Jody Scheckter. Then a little way back to Mario Andretti. And I think I saw Alan Jones there trying for the inside. Did he get past into second place? Did Alan Jones get past Patrick Dupai, the early leader? You see, sixth is Didier Pironi. Yes, it looks as if he did. So Alan Jones, in the early stages, started to press Patrick Dupai. Made an error, dropped back to third place as he tried to take the lead. Now Alan Jones is charging back through the field from that third position. He's now back to second. Can he get up into first place? So let's go through the order. First we got Lafitte. Second we've got Alan Jones. Third we got Dupai. Fourth, Jody Scheckter. In fifth place, car number 1, the world champion Mario Andretti. Then Didier Pironi. Didier Pironi battling for sixth place with James Hunt. So James Hunt going extremely well. And John Watson also moving up. John Watson down in about 12th place, but making some progress through the field in the McLaren. A tremendous Belgian Grand Prix so far. We've had just 2 leaders, and now some of the cars being lapped. Jan Lammers just about to be lapped. 4 leaders go through the chicane as they close up on Jan Lammers, the young Dutchman in the shadow team, just 22 years old, Jan Lammers. Still a lot to learn. Nelson Piquet, who went very well in the first 2 or 3 laps, dropped back, made a pit stop. And that is Lafitte going past Lammers. There's Alan Jones. There's Patrick Depaille. There's Jody Scheckter. That's how close it is. This is lap number 22 of a 70-lap race, remember. There's the Renault Arnoux. Renault not having a very happy race. Jean-Pierre Jabouille's made a couple of pit stops, but the race is all about these men here. Jacques Lafitte, Alan Jones rushing down the pit straight. Jacques Lafitte, 35 years old, born in Paris, but now lives in central France, a place called Plagny, near Magny-Cours. Somebody throwing up the dirt. It looked like Patrick Depaille putting a wheel out in the dirt. Shows just how hard it's thrown. And we've got Bruno Giacomelli in trouble. Bruno Giacomelli, it looks as the rear suspension's broken. Cars weaving all over the place. Bruno Giacomelli in the All-Alpha, the Alpha. Well, that was the debut for that car, but not a very happy one. Looks as the rear wing's being knocked off in the spin, and Bruno's trying to limp the car back to the pits. Bruno Giacomelli, the European Formula 2 champion. That could be very dangerous. I think he'd be well advised just to park that car. Meanwhile, there's the leader, Jacques Lafitte. Winner, remember, in Argentina. Winner in Brazil, car number 26. DJ Costa. Further down the field, John Watson's made up another place, has passed Nicky Lauda, having a troubled time in the Brabham Alpha. There's Alan Jones. Alan Jones in the Williams car, built in Didcot, Berkshire. Frank Williams been in racing now for over 10 years in Grand Prix racing. Ran private Brabhams and other cars until he became a constructor in his own right. But a very tense battle. Alan Jones writing the headlines so far. And very quick through there. Alan Jones overtakes the back marker. Now let's just wait and see. See Alan Jones in the picture. And there is Alan Jones, and I just have a suspicion Alan Jones may have taken the lead. Lafitte slowed to me. Lafitte kept on the inside line. Alan Jones just zapped straight past. So Alan Jones leading. Alan Jones only won 1 Grand Prix in his career. Very personal young man. I say young, he's 32 years old. Alan Jones, been racing in Britain now for 8 years. His father Stan was a great Australian racing driver, won the Australian Grand Prix many years ago. Alan Jones, very successful also in the States. Alan Jones won the Can-Am Championship last year. Nicky Lauda, meanwhile, comes very slowly into the pits. Alan Jones and then the 2 Ligiers, and this is something of a turn up for the book. See a Renault limping, and Nicky Lauda climbing out of the cockpit of car number 5. I'd say that his race was run today. Twice world champion, the man who came back almost. Time. We're just watching particularly Scheckter. Seems to have dropped back from that leading group. May have had a spin. Technicians, mechanics work on the Alfa Romeo V12 engine of Nicky Lauda's car. Nicky Lauda had practice. Bruno Giacomelli were abandoned with broken rear suspension. You can see the wheels at a funny angle. And now it looks as if Patrick Depailler is starting to press Jacques Lafitte. Patrick Depailler, early lead of the race. Patrick Depailler led till lap 18. Then Jacques Lafitte. Let's look at it in slow motion. There he is, went in backwards in the end, went off forwards, turned it round, went in backwards. That car badly damaged. There you see him getting out of the car. Oh dear, oh me, he threw that motor race away. Patrick Depailler. Very, very silly.
Very silly. There may have been something wrong with the car, of course. We'll find out later on, no doubt. But the other Ligier with the Lafitte in the front of the parade now in this 1979 Belgian Grand Prix. He's already won 2 Grand Prix, of course, the first 2 of the season, the Argentine and the Brazilian. We can now go live and rejoin Andrew Marriott.
And there's been another change. This is lap 54, and yes, you do see the Ferrari in the lead because the previous lap, Jody Scheckter sneaked by Jacques Lafitte and has now already pulled out about 5 car lengths. What a sensational Belgian Grand Prix we've had. This is lap 54 of the 70 laps. And now we've got a 4th leader. And let's just go through the positions. In the lead, Jody Scheckter. In 2nd place, Jacques Lafitte. 3rd, a long way back, Didier Pironi in the Tyrrell. In 4th place, just squeezed by Riccardo Patrese. In 4th place now is Gilles Villeneuve in the 2nd Ferrari. Remember, he had that early bump which knocked his front wing off, was in the pits for almost 3/4 of the lap. So that Gilles Villeneuve is 4th. In 5th place, Patrese now. And in 6th place, we have Carlos Reutemann, who is pressing Patrese. And in 7th place, John Watson. But here's the man that's leaving. Car number 11, Jody Scheckter, the South African. Tough South African who won a lot of Grand Prix but hasn't won for Ferrari yet. Joined the Ferrari team this year. Jody won 7 Grand Prix in his career. There he is. South African brother also races. In fact, brother's South African champion. Ian tried his hand at Grand Prix racing also, but without success. And on the right, you see by that 200-metre board, that's the abandoned car of Alan Jones. We haven't found out exactly what went wrong with that yet, but it was something mechanical. We do know that. But 4 different leaders in the Belgian Grand Prix. Exciting race, and Zolder proving true to form. Very, very tough on machinery. We had that extraordinary apparent driving error by Patrick Depailler. Of course, we haven't been able to talk to him. It looked like a driving error. Perhaps he had some failure, but he was very lucky not to be injured. Jody Scheckter now in the lead. At one time, he had a Ligier 1-2. It looks as if we were going to have a repeat of the Brazilian Grand Prix, but everything's changed. Looks as if he's going to win his first race for the Williams team, and he's only the 2nd race of his career. But that's all changed. And now we've got Jody Scheckter leading, hoping to win his first race for Ferrari. We've seen so many changes in this Belgian Grand Prix. It's a hackneyed old phrase, but anybody could win. Jody Scheckter in the lead. See, he's opened out quite a lead now on Jacques Lafitte. Lafitte, I suspect, finding his tyres wearing and perhaps blistering and giving him a bit of a hard time, and that, I feel, is why he's dropped back. 3rd, driving extremely well, Didier Pironi in the Tyrrell. Didier Pironi, young man, started Grand Prix racing last year, won Le Mans last year, incidentally, in a Renault sports car. And 4th, we mustn't forget, charging hard up through the field, a really strong drive from Gilles Villeneuve. John Watson not quite in the points, down in 7th place. James Hunt having one of his best drives until he had that big spin at the chicane, one of his best drives since winning the World Championship. Certainly his best with the latest Wolf car, but James Hunt out of it. Ferrari. Flat 12, Jody Scheckter, originally from East London in South Africa. He now lives in Monaco. Also has a flat in just off Market Square. At the back of the car. Married to Pam, his childhood sweetheart, and they have a young son, Toby, and Jody's very proud of the young son. Jody Scheckter, try his hand at anything. Done a couple of rallies and been very impressive on those. Certainly a great driving talent. Jody Scheckter came to Britain after winning a South African Driver to Europe award. Bought a Formula Ford car off the then reigning champion Colin Vandervelde. Started to win in that almost immediately, and his style was so spectacular they called him Sideways Scheckter. Now 55 laps, we'll see the order. We are on lap 57, but the order at 55 was Scheckter first. Feet was then second, still is second. You see him there. Third, Peroni. Fourth, Villeneuve. Fifth, Patrese. It says there, but now I've heard that Carlos Reutemann has gone past Riccardo Patrese. So Carlos Reutemann moving up. Lotus not going to score their third consecutive win here at Zolder, though. Remember, 2 years ago, it was the late Gunnar Nielsen who won his only Grand Prix. Last year, Mario Andretti won. Mario in lots of problems today. Mario out of the race. And just 11 cars running from the 24 starters. The usual rate of mechanical attrition here. There, the helicopter shows Jody Scheckter into the chicane. Second gear corner. Third gear there. Accelerating hard up the hill. It's a bit steeper than the picture makes it look. Then fourth gear. Third gear then, probably about now into Lehman corner. We can't see that from our camera positions. And there, John Watson just going through your picture in 7th place. John Watson having a very unhappy season apart from his 3rd place earlier this year in Argentina. World Championship, remember, before this race was very tight indeed. Villeneuve had 20 points. Patrick Depaille also had 20 points. He won't score today. Jacques Lafitte had 18 points. Carlos Reutemann had 18 points. And Jody Scheckter had 16 points. So it's going to be very close afterwards, this World Championship. But it looks as if Jody Scheckter could vault from 5th place right into the lead of the World Championship with this fine drive. Played a waiting game, Jody. About 10 laps ago, we thought we saw Scheckter falter. He closed right up on Jacques Lafitte, then got within about 1.2 seconds, then dropped back to 4 seconds, and we saw a picture on our screens when you were away from us. But it looks as if Jody was having a little bit of trouble with the gears. Anyway, there seems to be no problem at all now. The Ferrari going extremely well. And the gap between Jody Scheckter and Jacques Lafitte is now open to 11 seconds. And indeed, if my calculations are right, if this race stays the way it currently is, we will have Jody Scheckter leading the World Championship by just 1 point from Jacques Lafitte. Really has been a cracking season so far. Dominated, I must say, by the Ligiers to start with. Ligiers won the first 2 races. Ferrari won the next 2 races. And then the 5th race in Spain 2 weeks ago, that was won by Ligier, by Patrick Depaille, who's crashed out of this race. In 2 weeks' time, they all go to Monaco. There's Hans Stuck well down the field. He made a pit stop in the ATS, although he had been going better than he had all season. Jody Scheckter, the white helmet with the orange band around it. Very, very popular in South Africa. Still this season, drove for the team, before that for Ken Tyrrell, before that for McLaren. Used to be a bit of a wild man in his early days. As I said, they used to call him Sideways Scheckter, and in his early Formula One races he had several dust-ups, one particular one with Emerson Fittipaldi, which almost came to blows in the pits afterwards, but Jody now, one of the veterans, still smooth. Just to recap on this lap 59, Jody Scheckter's leading. Jacques Lafitte is in 2nd place but dropping back. In 3rd place, Didier Peroni in the Tyrrell, the Tyrrell sponsored by a new sponsor, Candy, who came in and helped Ken Tyrrell out just last week. In 4th place, car number 12, Gilles Villeneuve after the pit stop. In 5th place, car number 2, Carlos Reutemann. 6th place, Patrese. 7th place, John Watson. There too we haven't mentioned. Further down the field, Jan Lammers, the 22-year-old Dutch skid school instructor. And there you see Jean-Pierre Jarier in the other Tyrrell. Jarier is not leading Peroni. Jarier has been in the pits, but Peroni is in 3rd place. And there you see in 4th place Villeneuve, Emerson Fittipaldi, way down the field, having trouble with the old Kopasuka. Hamilton Fittipaldi actually in 8th place. Lammers is 9th. And Hans Stuck is 10th. And that tricky chicane. Now this is lap 60, just 10 laps to go. A very exciting Belgian Grand Prix, which has seen 4 leaders, but a man now well in the lead seems to be dominating the latter stage of the race. Jody Scheckter in the Ferrari, 29-year-old South African. Started his racing career in little Renault saloons. Indeed, Jody, I say he started his racing career, that was his proper racing career. Actually raced go-karts at 11, raced little mopeds at 15, and raced the little Renault R4. He built himself from bits from his father's garage at the age of 19. Garage owner's son. Father Max still comes to some of the Grand Prix to see his son race. Perhaps the greatest natural talent in racing. Natural talent isn't everything a racing driver needs. It's certainly a very large proportion of it. Not always a popular man with the press. Jody Scheckter, yesterday the International Racing Press Association awarded him their prize that they call the Prix Citron, which is for the least cooperative driver with the press. I wouldn't have said that was totally fair on Jody, and the fact that he turned up at the presentation and with very good humour accepted the award, which he says he's going to have framed and hung on his hung on his wall. So he's won it 2 years running, in fact, and he says he doesn't know what he's doing wrong, but so he can't really put it right. But catch Jody in a good mood, and he's very, very talkative, but he can be standoffish on occasions. But there's an awful lot to think about when you're racing, and being pestered by pressmen sometimes isn't the best thing to help you with your job. Scheckter and his brother Ian married to 2 sisters. Jody married to the younger one, and Ian married to Pam's sister Angela. Brother Ian runs a motorcycle business in their native East London, and still racing out in South Africa very successfully. So here is Jody Scheckter coming past the pits. Just 8 laps to go. Seeing the number flashing there. This is lap 63 that Jody Scheckter has just entered. Very tough track, Zolder. Very hard on transmission, on brakes. Ferrari, remember, since the World Championship started in 1950, have won more races than any other manufacturer. Lotus a second, Ferrari pulling away a little bit at the moment, the 2 way ahead of the rest. And Gilles Villeneuve has just moved up a place. Gilles Villeneuve moved into 3rd place, has just overtaken Didier Pironi, and a big cheer from an appreciative Belgian crowd, a large crowd here at Zolder today. Into the chicane. And now large areas of empty road. Very few cars still running competitively. Just 11 cars still in the race out of the 26 that started. Jody Scheckter 2 seconds already this season. 2nd in South Africa. 2nd in Long Beach. That is 2nd man, Jacques Lafitte. Jody Scheckter. 7 laps to go. Now on his 64th lap. Pulled out a massive lead over Jacques Lafitte. Jody Scheckter and Ferrari at speed. Doesn't even have to put a wheel up on the curb. Notice that Jody Scheckter is now so well in command. He isn't using all the road. This looks as if it's going to be a very good result indeed for Ferrari. They introduced this T4 model in South Africa. Gilles Villeneuve went out and won with it. 2nd race, Long Beach, Villeneuve won again. In Spain, not so much luck. But here in Belgium, the T4 proving to be the motor car to win the race. Fast but strong, that seems to be the message. Scheckter first. Second, Jacques Lafitte. Third, Gilles Villeneuve. Fourth, Didier Ferroni now. Fifth, Clay Regazzoni. Sixth, the sixth place. We have Riccardo Petresi in the arrows. His first point this season. Seventh, John Watson. Eighth, Emerson Fittipaldi. Emerson a lap behind. Again past the stricken car of Alan Jones. Some of his disappointment must have worn off now. Jacques Lafitte now 15 seconds behind Jody Scheckter. Barely 5 laps to go. This is lap 65. Feet into the second canal turn. Under the bridge. Cramming on the brakes from 5th gear down into 2nd. Left, right and left through the chicane. Then up the hill towards Lehman corner. Meanwhile, Jody Scheckter untroubled. Remember, quite a tyre war going on in Grand Prix racing at the moment. Goodyear versus Michelin. Ferrari are on Michelin. Most of the rest of the field, apart from the 2 Renaults which have blown up, are on Goodyears. If this race stays like this, then the score will be 3-all. 5 laps to go, going into 4. Jody Scheckter, you see the Ferrari badge on the side with the famous prancing horse. Of course, many of the manufacturers of Grand Prix racing cars only build Grand Prix racing cars. They don't build cars to the road. Ferrari an exception, Lotus too. Renault now in Grand Prix racing, although they've had an unhappy day. And Alfa Romeo back after that long period, over 25 years. Alfa Romeo now back with a Grand Prix racing car. Well, the Ferrari empire, of course, still run by Enzo Ferrari in his 70s, but he sold out a few years ago to Fiat, although Fiat let him continue with his autonomy. He runs Ferrari much as he likes. Of course, they still have a very successful range of very expensive sports cars. Jody Scheckter, 29-year-old South African. His best season was 1977 when he drove for the Wolf team. The new Wolf team, and finished 2nd in the World Championship to Niki Lauda. He won 3 races that year. Last year he again drove for Wolf and finished 7th in the World Championship. Not such a good year. This Ferrari using a flat 12 cylinder engine, 3 litres, runs on normal pump fuel as do all these cars. Transverse gearbox using 5 gears here at Zolder. Flat 12 engine gives about 510 brake horsepower, and it's been developed from an engine we first saw way back in 1970. Jody Scheckter, what must he be thinking now? Checking all the dials probably as he comes out of that chicane to see that the oil pressure, water temperature, all looking in good health. And after such an exciting race, will we have a climax, or will Jody Scheckter just run out the winner by a mile? Certainly looks that way at the moment. But it really has been a sensational Belgian Grand Prix, with both the Ligiers leading, then Alan Jones. Alan Jones retiring, James Hunt charging up the field well and then spinning off. Franchi Depaille crashing out of the race. And just 3 laps to go. The closing stages now for Jody Scheckter. A good drive by Gilles Villeneuve. Gilles Villeneuve, remember, has involved in an incident in the early stages in the chicane with Clay Regazzoni. Knocked off that front wing you see pointing out of Schechter's car. That was knocked off. Villeneuve lost almost three-quarters of a lap in the pit and now charged his way back up to third place. Fearless French-Canadian, former world snowmobile champion. That's Jody Scheckter. Certainly the best racing driver South Africa's ever seen. Smooth, calm and collected. Isn't having to push hard now. And my lap charter, Mike Doodson, has been computing the possible world championship position if this race ends as it is currently. And staggering, actually, looks as if we're going to have Jody Scheckter on 24 points. When I told you earlier that Scheckter was going to lead by 1, I'd forgotten that he has to drop his worst score, and that is 1 point. So we'll have Scheckter and Villeneuve both in a joint lead with 24 points. And indeed, Lafitte will have 24 points as well. So going into Monaco, it looks as if the World Championship will be led jointly by Scheckter, Villeneuve and Lafitte, all with 24 points. Jody Scheckter flashing down that straight from the helicopter shot. In second place, Jacques Lafitte, 35-year-old Frenchman. Winner in Argentina and Brazil. There, one of the Tyrrells going through your picture. And this is now lap 69. Scheckter is on lap 69. He comes up to lap Emerson Fittipaldi. Former world champion, Emerson Fittipaldi. Scheckter, of course, has never won the title. Past Alan Jones' stricken car. So let's just recap the order. Jody Scheckter in the lead. Second is Jacques Lafitte. Third, Gilles Villeneuve. In fourth place, Didier Pironi, the young Frenchman. Behind Pironi, Carlos Reutemann in the Lotus. Lotus not going to score there. Oh, Jody going a little bit wide there as he went past Emerson Fittipaldi. Wheels up on the curb. Bit of a nasty moment for him. No harm done, but oh, that must have made his heart beat a little bit quicker. Still in sixth place is Riccardo Patrese. Patrese behind Carlos Reutemann. Seventh place, still John Watson. Doesn't look as if he's going to get in the points. There you see Emerson Fittipaldi's yellow Copper-Suka car. Jody Scheckter now on his very last lap. Through that chicane for the last time. Jody Scheckter just about a mile and a half away from his first victory for Ferrari. His 8th victory of his career. Scheckter in the lead, driving through those final corners. A motor race I would suggest he didn't think he was going to win at half distance. And second man, Jacques Lafitte, not even in sight. The flag's there. And Jody Scheckter wins it. 2 checkered flags. I've never seen that before. 1 checkered flag waved rather weakly. And then another checkered flag. Emerson Fittipaldi crosses the finish line. Still waiting for Jacques Lafitte to get second place. There you go, Jacques Lafitte second. And into third place should come Gilles Villeneuve after his pit stop. An excellent drive by Villeneuve. Still waiting for Gilles Villeneuve. Ferrari must be very pleased with Jody Scheckter. Team leader, of course, although Gilles Villeneuve had won 2 races before this year. And then Didier Pironi finishes. Carlos Reutemann across the line. The man in the flag still standing out, waving the remaining men home. Excellent win. Excellent win for Jody Scheckter. Riccardo Patrese crosses the finish line, followed by John Watson. Just recap on the position. The winner, Jody Scheckter, by what was virtually a country mile. Into second place, Jacques Lafitte. Third, Gilles Villeneuve. Fourth place, Didier Pironi. Fifth place, car number 2, Carlos Reutemann, had some troubles with the Lotus 79. Lotus didn't get their third successive victory. Into sixth place, scoring his first point of the season, Riccardo Patrese, the Italian, with the Vorsteiner Arrows. Seventh place, John Watson. Eighth place, Emerson Fittipaldi. Ninth place, Hans Stuck. 10th place looks like Jan Lammers. Yes, Jan Lammers is 10th. And there we just see it. And what I just suspected, Gilles Villeneuve broke down on the last lap or ran out of victory. We just saw Jody Scheckter crossing past Villeneuve. It seems that Villeneuve never actually made the finish. We looked out for him. There's a whole group of cars. So quite a surprise that Gilles Villeneuve stopped on the very last lap. So the result, let's just recap it. The new order, Jody Scheckter first, Jacques Lafitte second, Didier Pironi third. Into fourth place comes car number 2, Carlos Reutemann. Fifth is Riccardo Patrese, and sixth, getting a point, John Watson, it would seem. I'll have to wait for news to see what happened to Gilles Villeneuve, but we saw his car stranded there. We saw it flashed up on the screen. I personally didn't see him flash past me here. Jody Scheckter takes his crash helmet off. Tell what he eats. Jody Scheckter getting ready to get on the victory rostrum. Great excitement of victory. Doesn't seem to be smiling too much or that happy with it all. Telling the tale of how it was anyway. Film cameras recording it for posterity. Jody Scheckter in the sea of people. He's smiling now. As if it was a hard race. Not too much sweat on his brow. Journalists, cameramen all fighting for that vital picture. Another helicopter that gave us some excellent shots this afternoon. Jody Scheckter, the winner. He's the way through people. Climbs up onto the victory podium. Jody Scheckter, the winner of the 1979 Belgian Grand Prix, his first win of the year, his first win for Ferrari, not his last, I would suggest. And the traditional champagne spraying it a little prematurely. They usually do that after they've had all the victory garlands and winners' hats and that sort of thing. But Jody Scheckter, obviously he did like it. The World Championship points. Jody Scheckter 24, Jacques Lafitte 24. Of course, with Villeneuve dropping out, he isn't a joint leader. He is in joint third place with 20 points. Patrick Depailler also has 20, and Carlos Reutemann 19. That's the way we work it out anyway. Seems that our Belgian friends had a little different. I definitely think that we're right and they're wrong. There's Jacques Lafitte, brushes his hair back. The man who says he sometimes prefers to go fishing than Grand Prix racing. Perhaps a little disappointed. So, on the victory podium, and Didier Pironi confirming that Gilles Villeneuve did drop out, so let's just remember the result. The winner, Jody Scheckter. Second, Jacques Lafitte. A surprise third, taking the position on the very last lap, Didier Pironi. And the World Championship positions, we have it that Jody Scheckter and Jacques Lafitte now tie in the lead with 24 points. Gilles Villeneuve and Patrick Depailler have 20 points. So let's return to Dickie Davies back in London.
Well, the pictures by Belgian television, of course, and our thanks to our commentator and...
Today's Monaco Grand Prix is the